Alex Meruelo finally speaks up. And is Conor Garland coming home? Probably not.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, #1 daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. We want to thank everyone for making this your first listen every day. We are free and available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube, on the SiriusXM radio app, and ad-free on Amazon Music. You got a great show on today's episode because we're going to talk about Alex Meruelo finally speaking out. Really, Matthew, for the first time since the election, because most of the comments were coming from the Coyotes. Like, public comments have been coming from either like Javier Gutierrez or anybody else. Mm-hmm. Alex Meruelo finally speaks out.
Yeah, it's a long statement, and it's mildly annoying because honestly, this is what should have been said like after the election. And like, can I get on my little soapbox for like 60 seconds here? The gaslighting that a few Coyotes fans have tried to give me, being like, oh, the fans didn't want him to speak. They wanted detailed plans. Dog, I was in those PHNX chats. I literally watched the election and the follow-up episode at least 7 times each. And like a couple of those were just in the middle of depression and then like getting some work done at Mullet. Like, everybody just wanted them to come out and say, we are committed to hockey in Arizona. Literally everyone was unanimously demanding, we need to hear from Meruelo. PHNX literally published an op-ed by the fans, and the primary thing they wanted was, we need to hear from Meruelo. That was it. They wanted to hear from him then. And then I brought up like something kind of felt a little weird about reading the statement, and I chalked it up to, it's probably just because it would have bbeen nice to also hear from him following the Tempe election. So basically, like, complimenting it's a good statement, but also being like, I have a mild discomfort here, like, hey, why didn't we also get that for Tempe? And then there's like this attempted gaslighting. Nah, dog, I was there. I remember that. We all wanted like him to double down that we are staying in Arizona from the owner, not Javier Gutierrez. Some people were being unreasonable, being like, oh, we want detailed arena plans right now. Sure, yes, you're always going to have that. Look at any comment section. Any comment section, a minority of idiots are going to talk about something irrelevant, or they're going to like demand like something relevant. Look at any like presidential debate, and someone's going to ask for like Pentagon secrets, right? Like, they're going to have someone asking for something stupid.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. Yeah. You can ask for it. You're just not going to get it. But Alex Meruelo's, statement, as referred to on the Coyotes website as, a letter to Coyotes fans from Alex Meruelo. It is an essay, Matthew. He goes in depth on everything. Let's be real. I mean, he talks about, the state of the rebuild, saying that, hey, this is what I've been doing. I've been committed to building this team from the ground up, and that includes, the talent on the ice, as well as finding a permanent home for the Coyotes in the Valley. Mm-hmm. He has made sure that is one of the parts that's well known, that to try to make sure that the Coyotes get a permanent home in the Valley. And if Alex Meruelo is committed to that it definitely gives a lot of us at ease of worrying. It's like, oh, are they going to relocate soon? Alex Meruelo does not want that to happen.
I'm not gonna lie. When the Coyotes, my comment's still up. I'm not deleting it. When the Coyotes tweeted out a statement from Alex Meruelo, it was nothing but anxiety the entire time. I'm trying to click on the link and load, because like never ever word a tweet like that again. Context before I click. Thank you very much. But it's a solid statement where, to summarize, we're not leaving Arizona. You know, he essentially says, I made the decision to go into this rebuild, which it's a good thing to have the owner take some responsibility for that, but it was a mutual decision among all the higher ups. We all know this. You bring in Bill Armstrong for something like that, but you know, we want to essentially rebuild from the ground up. We're doing everything on our power to make sure we're going to get this building that this fan base deserves. I have one issue with this, minus that one little, again, that one small minor secondary criticism. I have this. Don't lie to me, Alex. Quote, the Valley is where the organization and I want to be. My family lives here. We are all in. Do not lie to me. Dog, you are a Nevada businessman who is extending your hotel in Reno by $1 billion estimated with a new college facility, college basketball, not hockey, a new college facility.
I mean, maybe
you know you don't live here.
But
he does not live here. Stop. Delete that. Don't lie to me. And if you live here for like a week out of the time, sure, don't care. You're not from here. Don't act like you are now Arizonan. I appreciate everything else. Everything else is basic standard PR. It's standard fluff. Yes. Let's get the cynical bit out of the way. Let's acknowledge that. Let's just be honest about it. But it is still a summary of the productive offseason. It's a recommitment and re-emphasis of that commitment to the Valley. And essentially, you'll hear more soon. Also, tickets are on sale.
Yeah. Also, a couple things that I want to add to that I think is pretty hilarious is the right after that where it says, we know this community is a sports mecca. The first thing I kind of want to point out that the biggest golf tournament in the world is here. It is a big golf tournament. The Phoenix Open is massive, but it's not the biggest. It is like one of the first few in the PGA Tour. Like,
I know nothing about golf.
I just had to put it out there. It is earlier in the PGA season. It's not even a major. And again, but don't get me wrong though. I love the Phoenix Open, and I think I love the stadium aspect to it, and you know, people love getting drunk there. Absolutely. But anyways, that's a little tangent.
I think bringing up the NASCAR championships is
NASCAR
kind of funny
championship
because
Final Fours though makes sense because the Final Four comes here really often.
That,
it comes here to Phoenix very often, and people love it, especially when you have a top tier program right down the road and off the I-10 and U of A, bear down.
Nope, done. No, but like NASCAR's not even a sport. Like if you like, it's not like the drivers are Flintstoning it. Not like it takes like heat resistance and you have to be like a good driver. But like, come on, get the NASCAR out of there. If I offended a NASCAR fan in the audience, please comment that you're a crybaby because traveling around in a giant circle is not a sport. I will stand by that.
Anyways, so we're going to continue talking on Locked On Coyotes. Conor Garland is on the block from Vancouver. We're going to talk about that in just a sec. But first, we are going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, FanDuel.
And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That is $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get into the action. The app is easy to use with a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening to this episode of Locked On Coyotes and making it your first listen. For your second listen, once again, be sure to check out Locked On Diamondbacks, who just went and advanced to the NLCS after a sweep over the Los Angeles Dodgers. It couldn't be more awesome. Be sure to check out Locked On Diamondbacks because they got everything covered for you on the Arizona
And
Diamondbacks.
also David Peralta, I used to love you. I hope you stub your toe every day this offseason. Just the first thing you do when you wake up, the first thing is you just stub your toe and you're like, oh gosh darn it, that's going to inconvenience me for the next 10 minutes. I hope that happens.
Anyways, let's continue this episode of Locked On Coyotes as we talk a little bit about Conor Garland. Yes, this is, he's on the Vancouver Canucks now, but guess what? He's on the trade block, and we'll get to, I think, we'll break down the chance of him even coming to Arizona a little bit later, Matthew. But first, let's get to the interesting bit here first, because Conor Garland on the trade block from Vancouver. Mm-hmm. OEL's contract was bought out over the offseason versus the Coyotes, who had just shed all the cap that they had to take on from that trade, as well as now have Dylan Gunther, who they got from that trade, in the Tucson Roadrunners, getting ready to develop. Like, oh man, this couldn't be more sweet right now.
Oh, I would like to read for you. And I quote, "No, I will not drop the person's handle, but we are going to read this tweet together." Quote, "You guys are going to look like fools in a couple of years when Gunther is struggling on line 3 in the AHL and OEL and Garland are making noise in the playoffs with Canucks." Close quote.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Oh my God.
What was that? You effing clown. I think I can get away with saying that. It's just a letter with ing at the end of it. You clown. Dylan Gunther is going to be in the AHL this season, yes. But his roster spot was pretty much almost
fringe.
guaranteed.
He's fringe.
Like, he's a fringe guy. And he's going to be a top sixer, not struggling on the third line. So I wanted to make sure that...
I mean, you got a true goal scorer coming up in Dylan Gunther. And it makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the most important part people don't realize is, especially he's gonna be in Tucson. He's gonna get the Potvin touch, and it's so if you take a look at the trade, if we're keeping score here, Matthew, what's the scoreboard say?
Well, we got King Louis Eriksson. Okay. We got Dylan Gunther, and we owe OEL about $20,000 this year. So a little less than I make in a year. OEL is getting paid by the Coyotes because y'all bought him out. Y'all had to buy him. And here's the thing with Garland. It sucks because Garland was my favorite player on the team, and I would take him 100%. Back in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But he has been very good for Vancouver in his first season, 77 games, 19 goals, 33 assists, 52 points, plus 18. And last year, 81 games, 17 goals, 29 assists, 46 points. And a hat trick in the last game of the year against the Arizona Coyotes in a win for the Vancouver Canucks. Conor Garland is about a 20-goal scorer, right about a 50-point scorer. Very good second-line wing. And literally since a couple of months into his tenure, there has been constant chatter about them wanting to get rid of his contract, and then they've officially given him permission to speak with other teams. The only thing I could say is I want him back here. Bring my boy home. It will not happen. Do not mistake this. It will not happen. But this is partially my show now, and I'm going to waste your time by talking about how Conor Garland should be home, because when Nick Schmaltz, by the way, one person tried to say he doesn't fit our timeline. Last year, I would have agreed. Now, no idea what the new timeline is. Secondly, same age as Schmaltzy, so you can't make that argument if Schmaltz is part of the core. If Schmaltz wasn't, they would have traded him. You got a point. They didn't. Anyway. Yeah. When Schmaltz misses his 20 games this year, because he misses about 20 games every year, would you rather have Kerfoot, Boyd, or Conor Garland filling in?
I mean, that's an easy one. 100%. Conor Garland 10 times out of 10 on that one.
No, it's got to be Kerfoot. Come on, Kerfoot's a first liner, not a bottom sixer.
I like Kerfoot, but not that much.
and the Coyotes have the cap space. So Garland's contract is a little under $5 million a year. They have $5.6 million in projected cap space. Carl, friend of the show, obviously. But I'm going to criticize you a little bit. You made a bit of a boneheaded argument earlier today when you're like, oh, well, flexibility, flexibility. The Arizona Coyotes currently no LTIR contracts, but Jakub Voracek, Shea Weber, Brian Little. That is $21.398 million that can be put on LTIR to give them that flexibility should they need it. There is no argument against it. It would be a cap dump. So likely the Garland trade, if it happened, would be borderline for nothing. It would be a free move, and it doesn't hurt the cap.
Let's
get
add,
him.
Let's add. I'm going to add a little bit more to this. Voracek and Little only have a year left of their respective contracts that the Coyotes have taken on.
Oh my God, they could move one of those, couldn't they?
Yeah, that is about $13.5 million that will be off the books after this season. Not to mention, Matthew, that next year they're reported that the salary cap is going to go up a solid about an extra $5 million.
And it's only 3 years left. The guy is what? He is 27 years old. 3 years left on the contract. I know. All right. It has been consistently reported that players with terms, so like even 2 or more years left, most GMs don't want. 3 years for a guy that is not 30 is not something that is super hard to take in. And if they needed to, let's say you take Brian Little's contract, $5.291 million on the cap, you send it over Vancouver's way because they need to have something coming in. They put that on LTIR. They freed up all that cap space and a roster space. And then I'll throw in Unique at a fourth. Yep. You could have Jan Unique. You could have Jan Unique in a 3rd round pick in 2 years.
Especially since we know Unique already wants out anyways.
Yeah.
So
take him.
Just take him. And again, as I mentioned, the salary cap next year is at $87.5 million. Right now it's at $83.5. That's legit an extra $4 million. The Coyotes can afford it. However, Matthew, and this is the big part and the reason why I'm also saying don't expect this to happen, and the chance is really low. You said that some fans are saying doesn't fit the timeline. That's the incorrect statement to make. He doesn't fit the system. He's not a Bill Armstrong player. Don't get me wrong. He's fantastic, and he can. And I feel like he will gel because that short leash line in the slightly post-COVID year, the shortened year, was a phenomenal line, but it just doesn't fit the system.
You see, yes and no. No, because he's a short king like myself, little skinnier, obviously, short king, but his style of play is very Bill Armstrong, but like a foot shorter than he needs to be. And like, I also have to rightfully point out, it did not end very well with him here, did it? Because if my memory serves correctly, there was multiple reports at the time where essentially Garland was kind of left on not even red. He wasn't even like getting his calls returned. And there was one quote that I'll say a paraphrase. It's literally been like, I think 2.5 years where it's like, he didn't want Keller money. But he would have wanted to sign long-term and be here for the long haul. Yes, he had value. We got good younger assets. We got, Dylan Gunther. I as much as I hate to say this, I would make the same trade in a heartbeat. But when you have the added context of he doesn't fit the traditional Bill Armstrong mold, he is not someone that Bill brought in. They left on bad terms. It's not happening, obviously. No. But you know what? Again, partially my show. I'm going to get on my soapbox and say this is what they should.
I mean, we can dream. As a podcast, we can dream. But here, and I'll even add this too. Like if it even were to happen, like I said, not. Imagine again going back to the scoreboard, what that would look like for that trade. Like, imagine just the butthurt Vancouver fans coming into the mentions because how upset they are that the Coyotes just took them back for
No. Let's say it's Jan Yannick, Nate Smith, and a third round pick. No. Nate Smith is a top 6 NHL forward. Jan Yannick is an excellent bottom 6 NHL forward, and that third round pick will become the next Kuznetsov, Datsuk. I'm trying to think of guys that weren't first rounders. The next Garland.
Oh God.
That's how it's gonna work.
And again, it would be awesome. Just don't expect it. If it if some by miracle it happens, then we will celebrate and we will throw a party on this podcast. But
it's not gonna happen. So
no,
it's like
it's not.
It's fine. But like I got to let it out. I got to get it out of my system. And
we had to.
12 of you were forced to sit there while I was telling you why Conor Garland should come back. While I was telling you why homeboy should be back on the team. two-headed behemoth. I don't know. I broke that bobblehead too. It was given for free by the Tucson staff, and I broke it because I'm an idiot.
Anyways, we're gonna continue this episode of Locked On Coyotes in just a sec. We got the season opener, not the home opener yet. Season opener coming up tomorrow when everyone's listening to this. We're gonna go a little bit minor preview, not full preview. That's coming tomorrow. But we'll get to that a little bit of a sneak peek, as you will, in just a sec. But first, a quick word from our sponsors on today's show. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. The NHL is finally here. Coyotes have the season we've been yearning for. I absolutely love the NHL, and you know that you do too. And that's why I want to tell you guys about the Sleeper app. The Sleeper app is the official daily fantasy app of Locked On NHL Network, and it's my go-to for daily fantasy sports, especially with daily fantasy hockey. With a Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy. The NHL has never been more exciting, with studs like Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, and Logan Cooley coming to the Arizona Coyotes, and probably, very likely, maybe win Calder Trophy over Connor Bedard. We'll see. But Sleeper is the place to make your picks on stats like goals, assists, and saves, plus, minus, and more. Once again, you heard me, Coyotes fans. 100 times payout on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right now, and you could win big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Once again, that's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms of use for details. All right, Matthew, let's now get to just a little bit of a sneak preview into tomorrow's game. Arizona Coyotes versus New Jersey Devils. It's opening, the Coyotes' first game of the season. Logan Cooley making his official NHL debut. How excited are you?
I'm not. Cooley's a bust. This team will go nowhere, and they're moving to Salt Lake. So let's get by this fake season and get it over with. All right? That's all we got to look forward to? Did I get that one right?
No, I'm gonna grade you with an F on that because you did not understand the assignment.
I want to temper the expectations a little bit. I genuinely do see him being in the Calder contention. When I see him live, even in preseason, and one last time, obviously it's preseason, but 30 goals seems less and less unreasonable by the minute, essentially. It's how good I've seen this kid live. So what I'm going to say is I expect him one of two things. Nothing for like a week. Big bust, worse than Connor Bedard, hat trick in the first game. I don't see an in-between, and just because I love looking stupid on this show. Hat trick on the first game. It's going to be like a 5-2 finish, and the cup favorites are not going to know what happened to them.
Gotta love it. And here's a question for you. And going in, I guess, as a season preview, I guess, total points for the Arizona Coyotes. I think we mentioned it on our betting episode, but I think it's at around projected for around like 76.5 or whatever it is. What do you think? Like, where are the Coyotes going to finish? And what? I mean, even I'll add one on. What place in the Central Division will the Arizona Coyotes finish?
Let's get this mic right here, nice and close. So I saw some people put the Coyotes as having like less points this year than they had last year. Last year with a negative 71 goal differential. Hold that in for a second. Contemplate that. All right. Negative 71. They had 70 points, 28, 40, and 14 record. And I think they had one of the better home records as well. And they had no business doing that. Second worst in the division. If you think genuinely that a team that added Dumba, Zucker, Durzi, Kerfoot, Cooley, probably another player I'm forgetting right now because I'm so hyped about the rest of those guys. If you think that team is going to be under like...
Also, Bukestad coming back.
Under like 33 wins. I think that team's going to be under like 78 points. And I'm trying to keep my numbers as low as and conservative as possible for the point that I'm trying to make. You don't know puck, and you do need to retire. I know Robyn doesn't believe in gatekeeping, but I think there's a healthy level of it, and you need to retire. This is that healthy level of gatekeeping. If you seriously think this team is not going to get around 80 points, and look, Winnipeg might be a little higher than my initial projections just because they desperately kept that team together. All right. I will still never bet in favor of Dallas. Minnesota, credit to their management, credit to them. They should be a playoff team. Despite those anchor buyouts weighing them down, have maintained competitiveness. All right. The Predators doing whatever the hell they're doing. I got no idea. I don't think the Blues are going to be as good as the Coyotes. I think the Coyotes at best can be fifth in the division because they can jump above St. Louis and either Nashville or Winnipeg, depending on if Winnipeg falls apart. Like, I think it would be funny if they did.
And they will most definitely be better than Chicago.
No, Chicago's gonna win the division. Chicago's gonna win the division and probably win a Stanley Cup or two. And then Connor McDavid is going to demand a trade to go to Chicago.
And I want to touch on this again. I think you and I agree around like that 80-point mark seems fair. And fifth in the division. What baffles me, and I want to go back to, I think I mentioned it on the air earlier this week or last week, that there was an NHL writer who predicted the Coyotes would be on their wild card spot in the playoffs. Ooh. A national writer put the Coyotes in a wild card spot this season. My brain went crazy. It blew up. I was like, I would love whatever kind of optimism juice that you're drinking. Again, we're optimistic, but holy, you're going this far.
I mean, it could happen, and we are going to go over time, and I'm going to EO this for going over time for this. There is a scenario in which that happens. This team clicks. Everything goes the way you'd like. Further development within the core. The team stays relatively healthy, and maybe you switch out Veggie for an extra asset and a backup goalie because I think Ingram's the better of the two goalies in terms of consistency. Veggie is still an NHL goalie. I just think Ingram is the more consistent right now from what I saw last year.
Needs he needs that second tandem like Ingram to push him. Otherwise, he doesn't do well. If you've seen that,
consistently doesn't do well because he'll go out of his way against the good teams and then just 5-6 goals against the bad teams.
Those 60 save games or whatever it is.
It's ridiculous. I don't understand it. All right, but again, good goalie. I think Ingram is the better of the two. The defense has improved. At this point, The only actual negative spot is Durzi, who has a lot of defensive inefficiencies to fix, but you have Brown and Stetcher mostly sharing that third pair with Dermott coming in and out, and that is that's a responsible third pairing. Keep the minutes where they should be. That's fine. I think it's mostly been Valimaki, who's a good two-way defenseman. You need a guy that's good defensively to pair with Durzi. That'll help cover that up, and you have a offense that is so much more consistent and layered. If it clicks, they can be a wild card 2 team. It would be by a point or two. It would not be like a huge gap. It would be very close, but it could happen. It's like a 2% chance. But I like the optimism because there's a little bit of a formula here, and I would love to be proven wrong, but this year is not the year for playoffs. It's the year for competitive hockey.
Yeah, and once again, that's what we're doing, is tempering our expectations. Because like you said, there is a scenario this season in which the Coyotes make the playoffs. However, that scenario is probably, I would say, maybe 2 times out of 200 or 250 or whatever it is. Like, it is a very, very, very slim chance. But the fact that we're actually saying that there is a chance this year, the previous 2 years were like, no, absolutely not. Don't even think about it. Don't even come close. This team, we're like, it's a possibility. It's not gonna happen. It could be done. Like, it just shows you the progress the Coyotes have made, and I love it. Absolutely love that they've made this kind of progress, and that national writers, some, not all, there are some national writers actually taking notes and paying attention.
I like it. But my last comment before you do the outro, please stop that, because the Coyotes consistently do better when everyone writes them off. The second you give them credit is when things start going bad, and my heart cannot handle a step back with the arena being this close.
Fair. Let's remember the optimism and the talks ahead of Taylor Hall, and we know what happened after that.
Don't bring that up to me. Don't you do that to me. That was the beginning of the end of Conor Garland's time here.
Anyways, that's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube, the SiriusXM radio app, and ad-free on Amazon Music. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Twitter, or X as we can now call it, at @LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leano. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.